Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about a new Netflix release, Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey. Before we begin, let me know in the comments if you were looking forward to this or what your thoughts were if you've seen it already, and make sure to give this a thumbs up if you like these reviews. It helps me out immensely if you do that. Also, if you're new here and you like movies, whether it be blockbusters, hidden gems, or everything in between, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases and some classics. But now, let's jump right into it. This stars Forrest Whitaker as Jeronicus Jangle, a toy maker who creates a toy named Don Juan, voiced by Ricky Martin, which comes to life only for it to be stolen by Jeronicus' assistant Gustafson, played by Keegan Michael-Key. Jeronicus is ruined as a result and is never able to replicate his initial success. Years later, his granddaughter Journey, played by Madalen Mills, pays him a visit, and it turns out she may have the key to change both their lives forever. This is written and directed by David E. Talbert, whose films I haven't seen, but his last two movies were also holiday themed, those being Almost Christmas and El Camino Christmas, the latter of which also being released on Netflix. I haven't heard any good things about either of them, and given that it's on Netflix, whose holiday movies are usually pretty cheesy, I wasn't holding my breath for it, even with knowing who was in the cast. But was I wrong about that? This took me by surprise, I will say. While Christmas and holiday-themed movies still get released on a fairly regular basis, it's rare to find one as high quality as this. And not only is it a Christmas movie, it's also a musical, and I'm always down for a good movie musical. I feel like it's rare for us to get a very good live-action musical anymore, so most of the time we do get one, I consider it a real treat. With some exceptions. But this certainly didn't disappoint. The songs were written by John Legend and Philip Lawrence, and the music was composed by John Debney, who was also the composer for The Greatest Showman. I haven't seen The Greatest Showman, but I've heard some of the music, and one thing I can say for sure about it is that it's very theatrical, and the same goes for this movie. At times I felt like I was watching a Broadway musical, with the movements being grandiose, the dances being elaborate, and the camera angles giving the scenes a larger-than-life feel. And these songs were really catchy. Like, I was moving to the beat for nearly every single one of them. There's a nice mix here of ballads, show tunes, there was an R&B hip-hop feel to some of them, and I honestly couldn't think of a bad song. They were all just really well done. All the cast do their own singing, and I was really impressed, especially from Forrest Whitaker. Who knew he had a singing voice? I read an interview with him, and apparently the last time he sang was 40 years ago, and I gotta say, he really should do more of these. The two songs he sang were Over and Over Again, which was just a ballad, as well as Make It Work, which he also sang with Anika Noni Rose, who plays his daughter Jessica, whose voice was also fantastic. And that song was a really powerful tune, as was Square Root of Possible, which Madalen Mills sung. And she also has a fantastic voice, especially for someone at such a young age. One of my two favorite songs, though, was the opening number, This Day, which was sung by Justin Cornwell, who was the younger Jeronicus. And that was just a booming, uplifting song that helped set the mood of the entire film. And my other favorite was Magic Man G, which Keegan Michael-Key sang, and it was done in the style of an old school swinging big band tune. And if there's one song that will guaranteed get you dancing along with it, it'll be that. It's got the highest energy, the catchiest beat, and again, Keegan Michael-Key just has such a good voice that especially fits the song. He was awesome. Now, I wouldn't call this film a comedy, but it's not without a sense of humor, usually with these quirky little banters the characters will have with each other. Ricky Martin as the Don Juan toy in particular had me chuckling a number of times with his hyperactive delivery and overtly jealous tendencies. And there was even a little bit of self-awareness, like there are a number of times where a character will break out in song and backup dancers will appear out of nowhere, and Forrest Whitaker acknowledges that at one point, clearly confused. There's also a framing device of a grandmother, played by Felicia Rashad, telling the story of Jeronicus to her grandkids, and at times it almost reminded me of something out of The Princess Bride. You'll hear her narration, and every so often the kids will interject to ask her some questions, or they'll argue with each other to let her finish, and I thought that was pretty funny. From a visual standpoint though, again, it's just incredible. It takes place in this unknown period of time. It looks like it could take place in either the late 1800s or early 1900s, although then again, there are also story elements like robots and toys that are built to come to life. There's almost a steampunk element to it, given the way that some of the characters are dressed, but it's all beautifully shot and very colorful and vibrant. I think something that really separates this from a lot of other recent Christmas movies is that it truly feels like we're transported to another universe. There are so many interesting characters who we cross paths with, and unique location designs that we come across, that I felt like we could have gone on for so much longer exploring this. I don't see this as something that would get a sequel, but if it were, I'd be totally on board with continuing to explore this world, because I'm sure there's a lot more they can do with this if they chose to go any further. There's also some animation thrown in there as well, specifically through the scene transitions. It's not used all the time, but it does play a fairly substantial part in the film. It'll use a mix of CGI and stop motion animation, and again, it was wonderful. The attention to detail in these scenes can't be understated. And I especially enjoyed whenever stop motion was used because it reminded me a little of watching one of the old Rankin Bass stop-motion specials like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Not that this specifically tries to replicate Rankin Bass, but it's a holiday-themed movie using stop-motion animation. It's hard to not immediately think of them, at least for me. As for the performances, Forrest Whitaker was just fantastic. He really captures the eccentricity of Jeronicus as he becomes a shell of his former self in his older age. And he's always been someone who goes big with nearly all of his roles, so his presence always feels like the strongest in the room, even when he's doing something seemingly small, like mumbling nonsense to himself or to Journey. And Keegan Michael-Key was just bursting with energy as well, as he always does. His role isn't necessarily comedic, but it is cartoonish to a degree. His mannerisms are over the top, and his delivery is always strong. The way in which the character conducts himself, it seemed like it was a role tailor-made for his specific talents, and it worked really well. Biggest standout though was Madalen Mills as Journey. She totally knocks it out of the park here. I think she's got a strong career ahead of her. If there are two things that are key to making a good holiday movie, it's capturing warmth and sincerity, and she brings those out to the forefront, especially as her character never met her grandfather before this, and all she really wants is to bring her family closer together. And honestly, that's another big reason why this movie works so well. It's nothing that reinvents the wheel, to be totally clear. It doesn't do anything so out of the ordinary that you have to see it to believe it, or anything like that. It's just a nice, earnest, sincere film. You can tell from the direction and the performances, everything felt very natural, and sometimes that's all a movie needs to be in order to succeed. If the heart and soul are there, it'll be such an easy time to root for these characters. Like, I had such a big smile on my face whenever something went right for any of them. Like when Journey was really excited at the prospect of meeting her grandfather for the first time. And with themes about the importance of family, it's something that the whole family will easily enjoy. Now, it's not a perfect film by any means. I did have some issues with it, though nothing that derailed my enjoyment of the film. But I did think the second half could have been just a tad bit better. My main thing is, halfway through we get introduced to some new characters, and I found their introduction to be a bit jarring, because the way in which we do meet them, where they're specifically located, it feels like we should have met them long before their actual first scene. And I found it to be a little off-putting, as these are characters especially played heavily for comedic relief that I didn't think always worked. And it just throws off the pacing of the film a little bit. It wasn't terrible or anything, it was just some jokes were hit and miss. I also think in the second half, it kind of meandered a bit. It's a 2-hour movie, and I think it could have maybe shaved off like 10 minutes or so. There'll be scenes that are meant to be more like these cute bonding moments, and I think kids will enjoy those scenes, but I think the movie slowed down just a bit at this point. Especially because I think it's the longest stretch of time the movie goes without a musical number. At least it felt that way for me. And truth be told, I felt the movie was at its strongest whenever there was a musical number. The scenes in between the songs were still a lot of fun. It's just when it goes so long without a big musical number, especially when we got so many in the first half, it would just throw things off a bit. This was such a great time. Honestly, it's one of the biggest surprises for me this year. I figured it would be just another cute, family-friendly Netflix film, and to be clear, it is something that the whole family will definitely enjoy, but this is very high-quality stuff. It has some great performances, a quirky sense of humor, an excellent soundtrack, and most importantly, an honest, sincere feel to it. It's a heartwarming, joyous tale that I think for many families will be a staple for future holiday seasons. This is definitely worth watching. Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey gets an 8.5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see Jingle Jangle, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like the songs? Did you enjoy the story? And what's your favorite holiday movie? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll catch you next time.